You can put the Rockfin link on the YouTube.
Welcome back, everyone. Combo Couch here. Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Oz, he's got his overalls on with the ones and twos over there, spinning it like normal. Ladies and gentlemen, do us a favor. If you haven't gone over and liked our Rockfin, please do it. ROKFIN / the Convo Couch. We need your love and help over there because, as you know, It is a free speech platform. At least for us, they haven't censored our voices just yet, and I don't think they will. Unlike our friends at YouTube who are just censorship crazy, taking people down, demonetizing people, despite a lot of people feeling it is the public square. They say they are an independent company, a private company, but obviously they don't have to deal with the laws of the land. So they get to sidestep it. So any help you guys can do, you can always go to the combocouch.com. All our links are there. But Rockfin, it's the place where we do business. No, fam?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I can't get into the folder for, I'm like logged out of the account. So
you share it with your
Fiorella Isabella at 007 at gmail.com.
Not Fiorella Mallorca?
No, it's the other one.
All right, 007.
It was a joke, but now that's going to come back and bite me in the ass soon.
Come back and haunt your ass.
I am not CIA.
Ma'am, I know we don't have it in the folder, but you have made some comments about it because we have a lot of things to cover today. The last two segments will be on Rockfin only. Dr. Ealy is supposed to be here today to talk to us about theirs and other things. So please join in for that. But we do have several other things we have to talk about. One, which we don't have in the folder today, is the fact that Elon Musk, it looks like he's going to push through, fam, and possibly buy Twitter. You made a little comment in the thread today.
Yeah.
You want to share that comment and kind of reiterate to the people out there about Elon Musk?
Yeah. So I don't understand why people are still thinking he's going to save them. Like, I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's like, nobody's going to save you. Not Bernie, not Elon, not Trump. And it's the same mentality of people that think like that some superhero is going to come and save them. Mm-hmm. And the guy has ties to the military industrial complex, to the defense industry. He makes his money off of that. He also makes his money off of resource extraction and exploitation of countries in the global south. So I don't understand how people think that guy is somehow gonna like save you. Also, if the government, if these entities, if these technocratic oligarchs allow him to come in, they're not going to do that if he's going to like shut it down, if he's going to actually be fair. He's going to play within the parameters that he has to play with. And these people are just extremely naive. And I think naive is even putting it nicely. I mean, I think they're downright stupid to think that this guy is like on their side.
Yeah, I mean, he is not a self-made millionaire or billionaire, whatever you want to call him. He's had questionable ties. Yeah, questionable ties to the actual intelligence apparatus, whatnot. Starlink right now, a lot of people being feared that it's being used for military purposes for the Ukrainian militias out there, drones and whatnot, and it possibly could have been used in the past. We'll clue, we want to clue, deal with it, does not care about the imperialist empire going in and stealing resource extraction. So I think he's being used as a Trojan horse of sorts to come on in, give back a little bit of the leash that they took away when they suppressed our civil liberties, and then look and has appeared to be this fighter for freedom of speech and whatnot. So to me, he's just a huge Trojan horses. And I don't believe he's a self-made billionaire. I believe he's an asset of the government. So that's just my personal opinions on Elon Musk. I am not holding my breath on what he's going to do. And I'm going to chastise and scrutinize every little move he makes from this point out. Fam.
Yeah. So
another person was co-opting.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like this is all part of it. This is all part of the whole game. And unfortunately, so many people don't see. Like, they like to say, oh, yes, I know we live in an oligarchy. How many times did Bernie Sanders say the word oligarchy? You know, how many times was he like talking about the billionaires and all these people? But they really don't understand, either don't understand what that means or just say it because it's cool. But what it means is you don't have fair elections, number one. Unions have no power anymore. And the ones that do have power are entirely corrupted. And I can tell you that because it's the Democratic Party in California has huge support from unions. And though they use that support from unions to continue dangling carrots in front of the dumb progressives. And, you know, the progressive caucus literally is absolutely useless. In fact, they're very much in line with NATO. They're very much in line with sanctioning. They're very much in line with just this mediocre, not even mediocre, subpar policy, economic policy too. And they're also co-opting unions now. Like, I mean, more and more, like any sort of union movement that's been rising up. And we've had a little bit of unions coming back in terms of the people organizing and trying to bring some sort of force for the working people of X thing, whether it was Starbucks, the Starbucks union, whether it was the Amazon labor union that we're seeing here with Christian Smalls, or whether it's another XYZ thing that hasn't happened yet. Like, they're happening. But the problem is that because you live in an oligarchy, no matter what you do, it's past that point of trying to use unions in the labor movement to try to make changes. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that these people are organizing and trying to make something happen. I'm saying they're going to the wrong people, and they're going and relying on the same system and the same structures, and while they should be instead trying to go outside of the system. And that's why co-option happens, because the Democrats see that this union, the Amazon labor union or the ALU, is a threat. They see that this is a threat, and they're going to crush it, because they can't physically, like verbally right now in the media, be like, oh, we're going to oppose this thing. We're going to make them look bad, because it's a bunch of working people against this billionaire Bezos. Everybody knows that Jeff Bezos is a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. And like, that's part of the popular narrative now. So they're not going to go against that. They're going to join them, and they're going to take them down from the inside. And that's what we see happening. And a lot of people can say, oh, you're just being negative. You're just trashing on these people trying to do this. No, I'm not. Like, I'm trying to warn them that this is what's happening, because we've seen this happen in every other facet of politics, right? And so Bernie Sanders announced, right, that he was going to go to Staten Island and New York and Richmond, Virginia, to speak with the very courageous workers from Amazon and Starbucks. They are taking on powerful corporations led by billionaires in their struggle for decent wages, decent benefits, and dignity on the job. Join us, Solidarity Sunday. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I look at that and I'm like, how can you oppose? I understand. Like, how can you oppose this guy doing this? Well, it's not that I oppose him doing it. It's that you have to ask yourselves, what does that mean under the current conditions we're living in? What does that mean under the structure where Bernie Sanders is constantly now towing the line of Democrats? Why all of a sudden this interest? Why not this interest, I don't know, Pasta, years ago when we interviewed Christian Smalls?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We interviewed him. Like, and the reason we haven't, asked him is because, well, I know the guy's, first of all, he's busy doing this, right? And I would love to have him on again, but we're busy covering other things right now. And I'm not saying this isn't important, but for me, it's kind of like, it's hard to put into words without sounding like an asshole, but it's just kind of like, you must have that opposition there. You have to have this opposition, but at the same time, that opposition cannot work within the system. And the moment it touches the system, it becomes a part of it. It's just an extension of it. I don't know if you know what I'm saying, Pasta, but
yeah, once you let the vampire in your doors and you invite him in, you've rendered him yourself powerless, but now you can't fight him back because now he's inside. The call is coming from inside the house. And I'm very curious to see how this segment would go, because I want to know where, you would stand on this whole situation as this was coming out. And I knew you'd take a lot of flack. I knew you would take a lot of pushback and people going, oh, here's Fiorella just hating again. All she can do is hate, the contrarian. But I have to agree with you 1000%, fam. Not to even mention the fact is, where were they before? Where were they? AOC pretty much turned a blind eye and, turned her back on Biden. And if she was sincere about helping workers.
On Christian, yeah.
Yeah, she's turned her back on Christian, I'm sorry. If they were sincere about helping workers, they will put some legislation through really to cancel student debt, hold Biden accountable on so many things. It's like they're not going to go back and hold the people accountable. It's nice that they go out and they support these actions, if they even supported them in the get-go in the beginning and stuff like that. What really matters is when you go back to Washington. And when they go back to Washington, we know what comes from AOC and Bernie Sanders. Nothing. This is virtue signaling and stealing the thunder for your own votes.
I would say you're being kind, because she actually ignored him completely. That she didn't show up to that protest that they were doing, that organizing event. She didn't show up to that. And the thing is, Bernie Sanders has for a long time been a supporter of unions. However, unions haven't achieved anything in this country because of the current system structure. So you can't just say you support unions like the Democratic Party does and like these progressives do, and then not change the structure. And the thing is, the problem is that people get really enamored by these figures, and they think, oh, great, AOC is coming, which means that they're listening to us because they're coming now. Sure, she came late, but now she's showing solidarity. No, she's not showing solidarity. She's there for a photo op. She's there for an opportunity to portray herself as this progressive revolutionary, and to actually she's not actually going to do anything to support these people, to change their material economic conditions, because that's what matters. It doesn't matter how many slogans and how many actions you have. Will this benefit their material conditions or working conditions under the system? Is it something that is plausible? You can have a little bit of achievement even in a system that isn't collapsed like ours is, because it damn sure isn't collapsed. But you're not. But if you're going to continue depending on the same people that are part of the machine, it's just never going to happen. So he says, I'm happy to announce that AOC will be coming to visit Amazon Labor this Sunday. For the Twitter finger, solidarity is about accountability and second chances. The only narrative that should matter is bringing people together. Yes, that's all nice and dandy, but that's not where we're at right now. Bringing people together, yes, bringing working people together. Politicians are not on your side. Nothing is going to come from these politicians. It's going to come from the people. That's why they came to you, because it's the people that are doing this. It's not them. And when you give the glory to them, and when you make this movement, a labor movement, political by bringing AOC and Bernie Sanders, you are pushing aside other people that, may not be the quote unquote leftists that love Bernie Sanders and AOC, but that are still equally suffering under the same conditions. The labor movement has to be nonpartisan. It has to be entirely nonpartisan. It's got to be from a worker's perspective, not from politicians' perspective. You don't put politicians out there to speak on your behalf. You have them begging for attention. That's not what's happening here. It's the other way around. And this is how they call out movements, because well-intentioned people think, well, if I get these high-profile politicians to pay attention, maybe they'll make something happen in Washington. But it's not working that way anymore. It hasn't worked that way in a long time.
And I think you have to be loyal to the people who walk the walk and talk the talk. I mean, for an example, let's say NATO, right? For those inside of Congress who have been on the anti-NATO train from the get-go, if there's a NATO summit and you want to do a pushback against NATO, of course, you bring them in, because from the get-go, they've been there. They've been fighting. They've been trying to push legislation. They've been trying to cut off NATO and stuff. That the same should apply for the labor movement. If somebody's been in it from the get-go, Bernie Sanders has only been in it when it comes to virtue signaling and vocalizing it out in a speech and stuff like that. You have to do the work in Washington. They shouldn't even gotten an invitation. And I'm very curious, fam. This person, Andy Lee Parker, who said, I guess if you don't mind her appropriating your hard work for her own political gain, we should have nothing to say about it either. Have you witnessed other people who've been critical of what Christian Smalls is doing here? And how have they come up?
Yeah, a lot of people are critical. A lot of people who saw through the bullshit, or of the squad, and who are questioning, who are not really there with Bernie, and who don't think he's going to do anything, have seen through this. Like they're very cautiously saying, "Okay, we're supporting you. Like, we're happy that you did this. We're happy that you went on Fox. We're happy that you went on CNN. We're happy that you went everywhere to put out your message. But look at what's happening here." And that's the other side of it that I'll talk about, I guess, later, is the establishment the political establishment, the oligarchs, the people in power will never allow somebody to be elevated to that profile without having any sort of caveat. We learned this with AOC. Yeah. The whole media loved her. Like they were so focused on her, and a lot of us brushed that aside and said, well, maybe it's because just this one. No, that person is not going to be the revolutionary, because they will never be uplifted by the machine. If they're a threat, if they're a real threat, they're not going to be uplifted by the machine. So what these people are doing is that they're going to try to co-opt this entire thing. And if you're not careful, and if you think they're your friends, you're going to go right along with them. And that's something that I wouldn't like to see. But that seems to me the direction that this is headed. And I would love to be proven wrong on this.
Yeah. And I think when you said the partisan part, like, once again, there's people who work at Amazon that are conservative, and, right. People that are not just on playing team sports, whatnot. And I understand when Christian Smalls is faced with the choice of, okay, let me elevate the movement. It's going to help me if I have Bernie Sanders or an AOC there to help elevate the movement, versus, hey, this is not going to help me elevate the movement. In fact, this is going to set us back right now, because it's going to turn it into, one, a partisan issue. Number two, it's going to give validity to people who weren't there fighting this fight with us from the get-go. And that's the thing that's the most important to me, is that they didn't walk the walk. So, I mean, what's next? Christian Smalls is going to run for Congress and not even take on the election situation? Is that what we expect now? I mean, the guy has done some amazing things, and I tip my hat off to him in his fight. But this move here in particular, it's like, dude, how could you not see this coming? How could you not? You have to take people on who are worthy of standing with you, who've been fighting with you from the get-go, not people who are going to show up once there's time for a curtain call and campaign off your thunder. It's going to make them look pro-labor when, in reality, they were just not there for the game. They didn't show up.
Yeah. And I mean, as Oz can show these pictures, it's just pictures, Oz, you can just show them, that they're over there taking pictures with Bernie and AOC. And yeah, is that something that maybe a lot of people are going to be like, oh, cool. What is the union? Like what Amazon is unionizing. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing for these workers to come together and demand better wages, demand better conditions. I think that's what more people should be doing. The problem is you're relying still on these politicians to do something. You're relying on them, to their image, and they're going to come to you with pretty words. They're going to come to you and offer you the sun, the moon, and the stars. They're going to come to you and they're going to put you on every mainstream media show and every mainstream media outlet, because they want that. They want to kill that movement from a workers' movement. They want to turn it into another fun.
Did we lose Fee? Is Fee frozen?
Raising mechanism for the Democratic Party. The fascist party has absolutely nudged workers for a long time. Am I good now?
Yeah, you were cut. Okay. You got cut off about a minute ago. So, but then it corrected itself. So.
Yeah, so I was just saying, like, they're gonna offer you the sun, the moon, and the stars. They're gonna offer you everything, but the reality is, once they have you there, they're gonna turn your movement into an extension of the Democratic Party, into a weapon that they can use to fundraise off of you, because they're going to be able to say, oh, we stand with unions and workers. We support them. Republicans don't vote for us. But then on the back end, you have the disastrous foreign policy. You have the going, the moonwalking on a bunch of things like healthcare, like the student debt and all that stuff. And like, it's kind of crazy for me to talk about this stuff, because, and this is what I was trying to like verbalize before, when we're living in an oligarchy, and like, we live in a country that is funding Nazis in Ukraine, that is trying to dismiss the very real problems that exist with that paramilitary fascist regime. You, in this country that literally has zero problem keeping people in debt, has zero problem, walking back on things. The surveillance state is at its highest level. They're censoring everything. They're only allowing one narrative. And you think that that's the people who work for this same institution and who fundraise with the same Democrats are going to somehow save Oh, the workers movement? No, like it's crazy to me.
And the piece of legislation that AOC and Bernie Sanders are supporting when it comes to labor is the PRO Act. Christian Smalls should look at the PRO Act and take a look at the union busting, anti rally, protest poison pills that are in that bill, and then question AOC and Bernie Sanders about that. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
that was the Progressive Caucus.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know what I'm saying? If I had Bernie Sanders in front of me, there'd be a million questions, not like come out here and support us and stuff like that. You have to be careful who you let inside. Like I said, you let the vampire in. If you invite the vampire in, you render yourself powerless. Now all your tricks don't work against him. And now they got you from the inside. Bernie Sanders and AOC did not do enough to get on that stage. And it could be more of a negative thing than it could be a positive thing. And I can understand how people would look differently at Christian Smalls for this. He might have won some of those virtue signaling progressives over and whatnot, but you're going to win them over anyways. Now, serious people are going to look at you and like, really? You just did all that shit and you let these schmucks on stage? Okay. Yeah. I don't know if we're on the same page, Mr. Christian Smalls. Thank you, but no, thank you. So
I just wanted to also point out a little bit of the whole media aspect, right? So he was on the Daily Show, and it's good to bring your message, this message that, to these people that don't really hear it, right? They don't generally hear this type of rhetoric. And, he talked about saying the first thing we're fighting for is job security. They hire and fire people all the time. There's people that are homeless and people in shelters working there that we help. It's absolutely true. I mean, that's how they treat Amazon. And those are the things people need to know about. And so on the surface, it looks like this is a great thing for people. You can show 12 that this is a great thing for people, that people are like that the rest of the world that doesn't pay attention is becoming aware of this, right? That they're being able to see the things that are going on in Amazon. But you have to understand, why are they doing that? If the Daily Show, like who are their bosses, right? Why would they be allowed this to happen? It's kind of like they're saying, oh, let them play house. Well, we'll still maintain control of this. We don't have time to play these theatrical games anymore. We have to really go to the jugular. And the problem with the progressive movement in the United States is that they don't go to the jugular. They still try to reform things. They still try to work within the system. And this is a stage where you cannot work within the system. Like it's just not going to happen. 13, you can talk about how CBS has been covering, and mainstream media have been covering, the resurgence of unions and the fight against Amazon. I mean, this is something true. And this is kind of what I pointed out. They talked about the massive Amazon warehouse on Staten Island that employs 8,300 people, and how they voted to unionize, which is what Christian Smalls was doing. And this is the first union in Amazon history. And the Teamsters now vow to unionize Amazon from coast to coast. The thing is, the Teamsters are one of the most corrupt and large unions in existence in the United States. I mean, they're hardcore Democratic Party operatives, and they're part of the whole thing. They're part
and
of
not Jimmy Hoffa's Teamsters.
I mean, it's a joke, right? Yeah. So there's a reason why the New York Times has been covering this. The New York Times, really, all these papers and these mainstream media, legacy media, sources. I mean, they've all been covering this. And then you have the Teamsters again, who went to meet with Christian Smalls. Of course they did, because they want in on this. They want to see how they can co-opt this thing. And literally, you don't have a say. For example, if you wanted to, I don't know, not be vaccinated or something, and you worked for one of these companies and one of these people was your union member, I guarantee you that they would still make you get vaccinated. I guarantee you that they would still follow status quo, because that's what it's supposed to be. You can only rebel so much as you're allowed to. within the constraints of the system. And also he was on TMZ. I'm just stating, the things. He was on TMZ. He was on CNN Plus, and now RIP CNN Plus. He was on Mehdi Hassan. Mehdi Hassan, our great friend Mehdi Hassan from MSNBC. So I'm sorry, guys, but these people that completely have vilified and made Russians and made anybody that's against the NATO narrative to be the villain are not going to plaster people they see as a threat. They're not going to support things that are actual working class led issues. They're just not. So they're co-opting it. And this is just yet another playbook. So he said about, what happened on Sunday, brought him to the trenches today. Solidarity Sunday today might have to become a union holiday the way we rallied. Just to let everyone know who have Twitter fingers all day, the ALU, the Amazon labor, is and remain independent. No need to have panic attack. We're in solidarity with the working class through and through. Yes, but those politicians are not a part of it. And the vast majority of the union leadership from the Teamsters that is trying to talk to you aren't a part of it either. So the last thing I just want to say on this section is note to the most gullible group of people in politics, politicians, corporate media, and a party that's done nothing more than destroy the working class, suddenly coming in for photo ops on the heels of a union victory isn't solidarity. It's co-option, and they're achieving it. So
yeah, the Democratic Party hasn't had a serious piece of legislation that's been pro-labor since the 1970s. Let's be honest here. Since the 1970s, they abandoned labor a long, long time ago. So to act like they're for labor right now, once again, it's different than their actions when they come on and make a couple speeches and when Bernie Sanders says, and it's the Koch brothers, it's like, it's one thing to get up there, yell, scream, spit, and say what you got to say. It's another thing to go back and do the work in Washington. And if you were serious about it, you'd have some serious good legislation for labor, and you would be touting it every single day, and you would be putting your other members on Congress on blast for not supporting it. That's not what you're doing. You're just virtue signaling and getting a shot that's going to help you out for your campaign coming up. Okay, you're doing PR right now. You're not doing any serious work, and that's all I got to say about that. And I'm just very surprised that Christian Smalls has followed for this shit. You know what I'm saying? Well,
the thing with the labor movement, Pasta, is that the labor movement here, and you can see this from LA, right? From our work with the activists in LA. They don't pay attention to politics outside of that thing that they know. Mm-hmm. They don't. So they don't see the big picture connections that would allow you to understand, oh yeah, these people are just using us, because they only look at like what's happening within the sphere of what they're working on. And so the problem is when they don't have people that can tell them, hey, no, this is bad, these people are using you, then what ends up happening is they end up getting co-opted. And so that's what I see this going. I hope I'm wrong. I hope, they miraculously keep their own entity and that they are able to see through it. But honestly, like, that's just wishful thinking, I think, in this regard. So
agreed. Fam, you want me to read some super rays real quick?
Yeah, real quick so we can get on.
All right, really quickly, going to just buzz through these really quickly, guys. Thank you so much. Game.film, Carmona, how you doing? Love you all, fam. Love you too, Carmona. You can't live without you. Trey Wright, howdy. How you doing, Trey Wright? Love you. Cultist Deeming, you will own nothing and be happy. The awful slogan would have never gotten past any marketing department. The WF is an obvious CII psyop. These are supposed to be the business experts, right? Right-wingers just can't get it. The enemy is here. Thank you so much. And we were just talking about the North American ape the other day. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Say hi to Jordan for us. My question is, why are folks letting AOC get away with lying to their face? What happened to the warehouse not being in her district, right, and the security reasons? Where's the hard follow-up from Crystal and Jordan? If you have to pressure and shame an ally into doing something they claim to believe in and agree with, then you got to start questioning if they're really an ally. So friggin' true. Thank you, OG. Love you. It's Good to hear from you again. He just pops in every once in a while. I don't know what the OG is doing every once in a while, but thank you for joining on in.
Yeah, thank you guys, and make sure to share and like and all that good stuff. I have to wait. Yeah,
I was going to say really quick. Well, do you have something to say? Or are you getting into the new section?
Yeah, I was getting into a new section. Go ahead.
Because I just wanted to say something for you, Danielle. Go ahead.
So, guys, this is why I can't with the progressives, because they're sad. They are like the freaking like lint on the shoe of like an actual, I don't know, do ants don't wear shoes, but the ant, like the lint that's on the ant that's on the shoe of an actual revolutionary. That's what these US progressives are. And I don't say that like because I'm trying to be an asshole. I say that because it's the truth. Because look what's really happening when you have a real workers-led movement, right? So Nicaragua has expelled the OAS, the Organization of American States, from the country. And Oz, if you can put slide 23, and it's closing all of its offices, and it's vacating all the representatives from their duties. I mean, they're done. Their duties are done there. And it's cited that the OAS is an instrument of Yankee imperialism. And fam, look who we have here. We have Denise Moncada. We have Michael Campbell in the next picture, 24. I mean, these are the people we met. Michael Campbell, amazing guy. You know, he really showed us the ins and outs of the election process in Nicaragua as much as he could. He was great. And they're over there and they have their game face on. They're like, no, afuera. And we're going to show you guys what that means. But
Yankee, go home.
I mean, I'm going to read this to you guys. And this is what I expect. This is what I want. This is what I want. I don't want any sort of milquetoast bullshit from Congress. I don't want some, rehash mention of the word oligarchy. No, I want this. This is what I want. Titled, Nicaragua Expels the OAS. The people and government of Nicaragua have denounced and continue to denounce the shameful condition of one of the political instruments of intervention and domination of the State Department of the government of the United States, wrongly and falsely called the Organization of American States. The people and government of Nicaragua do not and will not recognize this instrument of colonial administration, which does not represent at any time the sovereign union of our Latin and Caribbean America, and that on the contrary, is an instrument of Yankee imperialism to violate rights and independence, sponsoring and promoting interventions and invasions, legitimizing coups in different formats and modalities with the aim, which they have not accomplished, of disintegrating through humiliation, submission, and surrender of our national sovereignties. We ratify our unwavering decision to leave the OAS as expressed on the 19th of November, 2021, and by confirming our irrevocable denunciation and resignation before this calamitous, truculent, and lying dependency of the State Department of Yankee imperialism. We also communicate that as of this date, we cease to form part of all the deceitful mechanisms of this monstrosity, be it the Permanent Council, commissions, meetings or summits of the Americas. We withdraw the credentials of our representatives, comrades Orlando Tardencia, Ivan Lara, and Michael Campbell. We will not have a presence in any of the instances of that diabolical instrument of evil called OAS, plagued by insults, offenses, indignities, calamities, and aggressions that do not reflect at any time or circumstance the national values and interests of honor, glory, and victories. Consequently, neither will this infamous organization have offices in our country. Its local headquarters has been closed. Nicaragua is not a colony of anyone. Therefore, it is not part of the Ministry of Colonies. By denouncing and renouncing this infernal mechanism from which we withdrew immediately in absolute dignity, we ratify, yes, our respect, affection, and recognition to heroic Cuba and Venezuela, and to the peoples who bravely waged their struggles and who have accompanied us and continue to accompany us in the battles that have been fought and are being fought. for justice, the rights of the people, sovereignty, dignity, and peace. We feel freed from the repeated insolence of the Yankee State Department employees who represent the servility, lackeyism, subservience, decrepitude, and decadence of a lackluster institutionality reduced by servitude to the Yankees. The heroic people of this blessed and always free Nicaragua expels the disastrous organization of American states, like how our general of free men and women, Augusto Nicolás Sandino, defeated and expelled the Yankee Marines from this free and sovereign motherland. Managua on the 24th of April, 2022, Government of Reconciliation and National Unity, Republic of Nicaragua.
Yankee, go home.
I mean, that's what I expect.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect them, I don't expect an American entity necessarily to be that abrasive, but you have to understand there's a difference between the American people and the American empire, the American fascists, the government, the State Department. If people knew, I firmly believe if more people knew all the things that this government has done in your name and with your tax dollars, you would be as indignant and as angry and as revolutionary and rebellious, because you would have that sentiment, because you would be a victim of that, because they had no other choice to see it, because they were victims of it. So if I could just take people to hear these stories, I mean, I would do it, but it's like, you have to see it. And I mean, we've seen it multiple times. And I mean, it's just amazing to me that they were able to do this. I see it as brave. I see it as putting yet another giant target on their back. But yeah, I mean, when you want to talk revolutionary, that's what I'm talking about. Call them out.
Yeah.
Call out these warmongers, these war criminals. Tell them that you won't have this organization that is not an organization to overlook elections. It's not doing anything for elections. We don't have fair elections. They have fair elections, and we decided to call their elections unfair. The OAS it's the instrument that literally is used to coup and overturn democracies all over the world.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Pasta can tell you our elections are crap compared to the elections in Nicaragua.
Yeah, and all they do is manufacture consent for to go in and thrust our imperialist ways. And what Fee said is very important. It's about time people in this home country start calling out what the intelligence apparatus does or the imperialist apparatus does to everybody with our tax dollars in our name. Enough is enough. Nicaragua is in a different situation than a lot of other countries in the global South, where they have a little bit more of their own sovereignty. They control more of their own territory. They don't have any fingerprints or any leeches in there from the United States empire. However, this is exactly what we want to see. And this is why we love this country and we love these, Ortega. I mean, look what he was saying. Could you imagine Christian Smalls reading a letter saying, I am not allowing AOC and Bernie Sanders to come here, and read a letter similar to that about what they've done and how they haven't been, present? I think he would have won over a whole different group of people, and got a lot more people on the bandwagon. But that's, once again, we don't get this from anyone, fam. This is something only so beautiful and ripe that we can get from a country like Nicaragua. I think you should play the video, Oz, to get a little music in here the fam wants to get.
Just a few seconds so you guys know.
We got to feel what we experienced. there it is. Bam. Next section. Let's get into this right now. We're waiting. Our guest should be here. Ladies and gentlemen, when our guest does get on, we're going to go to Rockfin only because we are going to be talking about stuff when it comes to the boop boop. But we have a great guest. Fam, the friggin' administration, the Biden administration, the deep state, I don't know who you want to call. They've been failing awfully when it comes to their false flags. That's why I think they've taken down completely RT, and now they're aiming at Sputnik. Fam, what do you got for us?
So Russia is on top of everything and in terms of the false flag attempts by the West and NATO. So Russia has been warning about these WMD accusations. And, you know, the United States has never falsely accused any countries of weapons of mass destruction, right? Ever. So the Russian Ministry of Defense held a briefing a couple of days ago talking about the recent provocations against Russia prepared by the US and NATO, accusing them of using nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. So in other words, US and NATO are already accusing Russia of a future attack. And so I did a thread on Twitter. You guys should go read it because it goes into detail. But as you can see in the picture, we had the reason to invade Iraq, false in 2003, right? We had reasons for missile strikes on ATS in 2017, a reason to destroy scientific facilities, 2018. You can even include the Syrian chemical attacks in Duma in I think that was 2014. But okay, so Oz, if you click on the thread, we're gonna just scroll through it quickly. I'll just point out a couple of things. So they had information, right? The Russian Ministry of Defense had information, and we're gonna go in order. So it's this one. They had information that they had these provocations prepared, that the US had these provocations of them using all three, whether it was chemical, biological, or tactical nuclear weapons. They talk about how Joe Biden has been hinting at this. You could look back at Victoria Nuland and was it Marco Rubio that had this whole conversation. If Russia released a chemical weapon, or if there was a chemical weapon, it would be Russia. Joe Biden also said that this is a clear sign that Putin is considering using both chemical and biological weapons. He said this on March 22nd of this year. Then Ned Price, of course, another State Department hack, also said that Russia might use chemical weapons, and so on and so forth. You guys can read that. And so according to the Minister of Defense, they have been developing this plan, and they use the mainstream media. They use the mainstream media to continue pushing out this plan. And you guys can see how there are three scenarios that could be used to accuse the Russian Federation of using weapons of mass destruction. The first one would be a false flag incident, and that's the most likely. And it would be to impose responsibility on Ukraine and NATO countries. That's why they would use that. They tried to do this with Kharkov. If you look back at this, Kiev, because they had hazardous conditions. They had the biohazardous conditions and the incidents at nuclear power plants. If you guys look back at all the accusations, you guys will find that that was a part of it. The second one, which is probable, but not as probable as the first, would be the maximum stealthy use of weapons of mass destruction in small quantities. The objective declared would be to neutralize the willpower and the capacity to resist within the fulfillment of a particular task. So Mariupol, what they were trying to say about Mariupol, that is one thing that would be happening, to smoke out the nationalist groups. And the third one, of course, would be to open use of weapons of mass destruction in a battlefield. This is the least likely. And they were saying that this is what they were trying to do in Kramatorsk, where they were trying to say that the Russians attacked Kramatorsk and that whole thing. And so as you guys can see, they have these documents, and they talked about how the ways that this is coming. And I think it's important to note that, especially when we're going to start seeing these accusations come out. And they also put this image right here where you can see the international bodies that carry out these investigations, the OPCW, the IAEA, the Convention on the Prohibition of the Development, Stockpiling of Bacteriological and Toxic Weapons on their destruction. So these entities already work for the State Department. So they're like investigating themselves. It's like when we have the police union situation or a bank robber investigating itself. Yeah. It's ridiculously difficult to trust that. And so they also have the purpose of the weapons of mass destruction provocations. They want to exclude Russia from the Security Council. They want the prosecution of anybody involved in any sort of opposition, and they want the people who haven't sanctioned them to sanction them, as well as a full embargo on the Federation. So the problem with this whole situation is that the United States and NATO are the only country that have used all biological, chemical, and nuclear weapons. Yeah. So we're the only country that's used all of them. So it's kind of interesting that they're pointing out, this is it. Russia's going to do this when we're the only country that's evidenced to have done it.
Yeah.
Have used
it's a joke at this point. It's laughable and stuff. It was laughable when Victoria Nuland said, well, we have research facilities, but if anything happens, it was Russia, fam. It's classic Russia maneuvers to do exactly that. So therefore, they'll thrust the blame on us, but they're the ones who are actually doing it. Yet, the fingerprints, the sticky fingers, where are they at? On our hands, on the United States empire's hands. That's where it's at. And it's almost ridiculous that they would try to pull this off. And the thing is that when you're in Russia's backyard, like Ukraine, to pull off false flags, you have to have a lot of things set in motion to happen to make sure there's no leakage. Every single time they've tried to pull this off, we've had information that it was coming, that this shit was going to happen. And sure enough, every single time, like clockwork, they've exposed themselves. And I don't know how many people really just going to believe Anthony Blinken, AB, when he says this crap, but it's laughable at this point. And I love the, did you want to read 35, 36, and 37, or should we jump?
I just want to point out what it was saying is basically that as an update, the Azovstal plant where these people are hiding out, where it's the remaining military and the Nazis are hiding out, there is an open, like, they can leave. They just have to surrender, but they're not leaving. And so they're like,
they don't want to surrender.
They don't want to surrender. They're there, but if they choose to go, they can go. And they're trying to say, the Russians are saying like they can go, they'll receive, humanitarian aid and respect and whatever. But that they're saying that there's no obstacles for them to escape, but they're not doing it. And they don't know if it's like because they're not allowed to as well,
because they'd have to admit their guilt. They admit the guilt of trying to hide, once again, Plant 404 down there. There's a lot of foreigners there. There's a lot of French people there. There's a lot of other,
mercenaries.
There's mercenaries there. There's scientists there. They would have to admit on so much stuff, right? So that's why they're not surrendering, and they're not allowed to surrender because it would be an admittance of guilt, and they don't want to do that. So,
and they're scared of their own like Nazis because, as we've heard from other supporters of or who used to be Ukrainian, in the Ukrainian military, how they were scared of leaving because they were scared of being killed, and how the Russians, once they thought the Russians were going to hurt them, the Russians ended up treating them better. There's a lot of testimony if you go on Telegram and look at a lot of these underground people there. So and just the last thing is the meme, right? I just want to show the meme.
I stand with Ukraine, sponsored by Boeing, Raytheon, ExxonMobil, Chevron. Fam, those companies right there, the majority of them are owned by who? BlackRock. BlackRock also owns Moderna, Pfizer, all these other things. So it's the same people who are thrusting these things upon us, the military-industrial complex and the big pharma-industrial complex, fam. It's the same people. So what we've done today is we brought in an awesome guest. I remember I didn't meet him, but the first time I saw him was 9 months ago. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to introduce him real quick, and then we're going to go over to Rockfin only. So now is the time. Jilly Love, if you can put that Rockfin link in the chat. There's 250 people hanging out on YouTube. Thank you so much. We're going to give you the link to Rockfin. You don't want to miss this interview. 9 months ago, I turned on the Union of the Unwanted because I wanted to see the Robert Malone episode. And there was this doctor in there by the name of Dr. Henry Ealy that was kind of questioning and exposing the data. So as an election integrity activist, I kind of got all jumpy because we understand that data, propaganda is another form of manipulation. If you can manipulate the data, you can manipulate people. You can push your propaganda out there. Well, I have a little clip. We have a couple clips of Dr. Ealy, but Dr. Ealy is kind enough to join us today. We were able to meet at the Defeat the Mandates in LA, and I immediately went running up to him. And it's kind of awesome that he's in gear today. He's got the glasses on. Dr. Ealy is here. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ealy, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm glad you're wearing the glasses because when I met you, you didn't have the glasses on and we got to look eye to eye, but we got to have a great conversation. And now you're finally here. You've been one of my favorite doctors to follow because you actually expose the way data can be manipulated. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Ealy.
Hey, Pasta, it's great to be here, and big shout out to everybody in your audience. It's a pleasure, and it's especially a pleasure to get the truth out. So thanks for giving me the opportunity.
The pleasure is all on this side of the table. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time right now. Grab the link. We have to leave YouTube because if we talk, we'll get shut down and censored right away. You know what they've been doing to us. 15 months now demonetized on this channel. So we're going to go to the free speech platform of Rockfin, where you can see Dr. Ealy a lot on organic, what's it called? Organic, the show
Association. Yeah.
So awesome. And man, I just watched the show the other day. You weren't on there, but she was talking about the bird flu. She was bringing the receipts. And we did a show last week talking about, wait a second, that might be the new thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're leaving YouTube in 5 seconds, in 4 seconds, in 3 seconds, in 2 seconds, in 1 second. Goodbye to all the YouTubers. Get on them.